What's up, gorgeous? I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the Fierce Framework podcast, where we talk about becoming fierce through messy action, baby steps, and cultivating confidence. I'm your host, Mary Beth. I'm a business coach with a passion to see women breaking out of the mold society tells us we're supposed to fit into and to start living life more on our own terms. I believe the world benefits when women are living lives that we're lit up about and we're pursuing a purpose that makes us feel fulfilled. My goal with this podcast is to share inspiration, stories of other entrepreneurs just like you, and practical tools and tips to help you become fierce in your business. If that sounds good to you, you're going to love this episode. Let's get down to it. What's up, gorgeous? I'm so glad you're here. Today's episode is all about how to get started. So, if you're one of those people who tends to get wrapped up in kind of the minutia or getting ready, laying a foundation, and you find yourself having a hard time like actually getting started with what you want to do, today's episode is for you. Okay. So, there is this idea called fancy busy work, and I believe Rachel Rogers coined the phrase. She wrote some incredible books. The first book that got me hooked on her was We Should All Be Millionaires, and I'm part of her coaching program. I think she's amazing. Totally love her. Definitely check her out. But I love the concept or just how she like names it, right? And talks about this concept of fancy busy work. I've also heard it called entrepreneur porn. So if that works better for you, okay. And basically, it's the phenomena, right? Like so many people do it, we're naming it because it's a common thing. So there's no shade here if like you find yourself in that boat. I've definitely been there. But the what we're referring to here is the tendency for so many of us entrepreneurs to get stuck in like preparing and getting ready and perfecting to the extent where we're kind of ignoring the actual business. So doing the things, making the transactions, making the sales, talking to people, building our network, like the things that are actually going to make us money. Because that's the difference between a hobby and a business, right? So we all want to have a business, but nobody wants to talk about money. So we're talking about money. Okay. So buckle up. You're doing great. But essentially, the goal, right, is to make money. That's why it's a business, not a charity, not a hobby. Okay. So that's actually kind of step number one. Be like, making money is okay. Wanting to make money is okay. All these things are okay. And a lot of us actually have like a lot of mindset work that we need to do around money to kind of change our knee-jerk reactions, our beliefs, like the recurring thoughts that we're telling ourselves around money. I'm not going to do that here today with you. This is not a mindset session, so sorry. But highly recommend looking into that kind of work because as just women in American culture, there, so many of us were kind of programmed to not be comfortable talking about money, to not be comfortable like admitting that we want money, which is kind of crazy because we live in a capitalist society where you need money to survive. So there's that. So when I'm talking about like the things that are moving the needle, like the important things that you need to be doing for your business, I'm talking about what is going to make you money. So you have the fancy busy work and stuff like that is your website. I love to hate on websites. Okay, I'm so sorry. It's probably just because I don't have one. But I've also heard this from several other successful people. I think Rachel Rogers is one of the first people where I felt like after reading her book, after listening to a lot of what she had to say, I felt like I had permission to not have a website. Kathy Heller too. Like I love how they talk about like you don't need a huge infrastructure to get started. And as you can tell from my approach and the things that I like to share, that has shaped a lot of my kind of like view on entrepreneurship. And the minimalist entrepreneur was also really good. Okay. But I've seen a lot of these themes, and that's why I wanted to kind of like consolidate it and package it to you today because I think it's so powerful and so important. And it's a common trap that I feel like a lot of us fall into. So again, there's no like shade. So many of us are in the same boat or have been there. And that's why we're talking about it, not to make you feel bad, okay? Because I love you, boo. You're doing great. So there are, I totally distracted myself. I was going to like talk about the website. So if you need a website to make sales, to schedule appointments, whatever, like that's fine. If you need a website and you're going to use it, great. I'm in a couple coaching programs where you log into their website, like it hosts their program. They need a website. Okay. Or like if you're selling a product, right? You need somewhere to sell it. So, a lot of people will use like Amazon or Etsy or another platform, and that's great. And if that works, great. But sometimes you do need your own website. So I'm not hating on that. But there's a line, right, where the website can be supporting your business, making sales, connecting you with customers, right? That is functional. That's important. And then there's another side where you get into the fancy busy work. And that is when you're spending like weeks and months and like perfecting your website and tweaking it and like going over and over like the font size and like just minutia. Okay. Like if you get feedback where, hey, your stuff is hard to read, you don't have enough contrast, great, make an update, like make it easier to read. Love that feedback. Nothing wrong with implementing feedback. But where I feel like it becomes a trap is when a lot of us get into like, that's what we're doing and we're wanting to perfect every little thing. And we're spending like all this time and energy building, shining up, polishing, perfecting a website we never tell anyone about, that nobody ever goes to because you haven't handled the important stuff. Okay. So I am not just hating on websites, and there are some like why I'm bringing this up is because fancy busy work distractions doesn't look the same for everyone. Okay. So someone might be building a website that actually is a valuable part. It's a money making part of their business, and it could actually not be fancy busy work for them. Whereas somebody else could also be working on their website and it is fancy busy work for them. So it depends, right? And that's why it's so important for us to be self aware and know where we're at in our businesses and kind of like what step you're at. Basically, what I want to boil down is three main questions on how, here's the questions that you can ask yourself to help you like move into action on your business instead of building infrastructure, perfecting the website, redoing your business cards again, um, only building a social media presence and like never capitalizing on it, all those kinds of things. So the three questions I love to ask are, does it work? Do people want to buy it? And do you have a way to accept payment? And again, credit to Rachel Rogers. A lot of this has like come from her influence. So thank you, Boo. So first question, does it work? Okay. So whatever you're selling, you want to make sure it works, right? So whether it's a product or a service, it's got to work. Like you have to have a thing. This is not, I'm not encouraging a Ponzi scheme where we're taking advantage of people or, like I talk a lot about messy action, right? And working to push past perfectionism. That doesn't mean that I'm a proponent of low quality and trying to skate by and cut corners. I am an oldest daughter, so there are a lot of us out there. We're overachieving and we're over performing, and we are like perfection doesn't really exist. So that is kind of the extra that I'm referring to. I'm not saying don't have high quality products. I think it's important to have high quality. I think your stuff like has to work, right? Because we want repeat customers and we want positive experiences with our people. That is part of what draws so many of us away from corporate to building our own businesses is because we want like relationships and we want more of like a community feel where we're contributing to a community of people being our customers, and then they're benefiting and we're benefiting. So you want a mutually beneficial relationship. You want to create that environment with the people you're in business with. And if you're selling crap, that's not it. Okay. So that's part of why, like, does it work versus is it perfect? Okay. It's not going to be perfect. It isn't, it's why would it doesn't have to be perfect because perfect doesn't even exist. So you want it to be really good. You want it to work. Okay. So whether it is your coaching program or your candles or whatever it is that you're offering, that you're selling to your customers, does it work? Okay. If the answer is yes, great, let's move on. If the answer is no, we can either tackle another question first, right? Or you can figure out, how can I make this work? If I am coaching people, I have to make sure I can actually help them. If I'm a business coach, I have to make sure I can actually help them in their business, right? So if I don't know how to help you make more money in your business, I need to fix that before I start trying to sell you business coaching. And that's why I like to start with, does it work? Okay. Secondly, do people want it? And this kid, this is going to be a sticky subject. Okay. Because it's going to vary, like how many people, depending on what you're doing, what you need, all that kind of thing, right? Some of us want to make as much money as we can, and I love that for you. And some of us want to make enough money to where we can quit our corporate jobs and like live a life where we're not stressed out all the time. And I love that. Okay. So we have varying definitions of success. So again, like this is going to be specific to you and your business, but the difference between a business and a hobby is we're selling something. Okay, so you need to have people who want to buy what you have to sell. And Seth Godin, his book, I believe Tribes, which questionable terminology, but good concepts. And one of the things that he talks about in there is how you need, like most, I forget how he phrases it exactly, but it's like most business owners only need 1,000 true fans to be successful, to like reach the level of success that they're looking for. And I think that's so powerful because it's like it gives you a number to aim for. Because when you're first starting out, like you don't necessarily know how many people you need to serve, how many people are going to be like repeat. You don't know where you're going to end up, right? Like you're starting wherever you're at, making the candles or whatever, but you might move into an entire like lifestyle blog or show or whatever, right? You are potential and our opportunities change and develop like as we're growing and as we're honing our craft. And that's part of why that first question, right? Does it work? It's not, is it perfect? Because your capacity is going to grow and expand as you keep going. So you don't have to wait to start until it's perfect because it's going to continue getting better as you get more experienced. Okay. So this is why, like in the corporate world, a lot of the times people are paid more based on their experience, right? Because we understand as a society that you grow and you learn and you get more efficient, usually, and more effective and like better seasoned, right? As you gain that experience. Same thing happens in entrepreneurship, right? So if you look at, I think it's really easy to see like in coaches, right? When people start out, they're not charging very much, right? But as they gain experience and testimonials and you see that it's working and they know what they're doing, then they start charging more, right? Similar to, a product. I don't have a lot of experience with products, that's why I don't talk about it a lot. But if you're like scrimping together some, we'll stick with candles, right? Like in your garage, and there you're still learning and you're maybe not quite sure like how to make the fragrance good or how to, get the wax a certain way, then you're not going to sell that candle for as much as you could or will, hopefully. Charge what you're worth. When you start building that knowledge and your candles are more luxurious and they're more beautiful and they're more effective and they're serving the purpose better and they're like people are getting more value from them, then you start charging more, right? So I want to acknowledge like it is a normal part of the journey. You absolutely expect to get better as you go. So you don't always know like where you're going to end up, and that is completely okay. All right. So bringing it back to 1,000 true fans, it's just helpful to have that number because again, like a lot of us don't necessarily know where we're headed or like what kind of goalposts there might be or standards or um like milestones. Okay. So that's encouraging to me because it's like, okay, that's a finite number. Because if you're someone who is used to like working yourself until you burn out, it's nice to have an end in sight. Okay. So love that as well. Hey, so we're always talking about our dreams and making progress towards our goals on this podcast. But what if you don't know where to start, right? Maybe you're so full of amazing ideas that you have a hard time narrowing it down and picking something to start with. Or maybe after years of not having a say, you don't even know what you like or what you want anymore. Either way, I got you, okay? I created a free course that's just for you. It's a 5-day training on how to find your focus. It's super easy because all you gotta do is you sign up and I'm gonna deliver a lesson to your inbox every day. The course is all about helping you hone in on what lights you up so that you can focus on one thing at a time and start making progress towards your dream. It's super easy to sign up. You can go to thefierceframework.myflowdesk.com/focus. I know it's kind of long. Thefierceframework.myflowdesk, that's my FLO desk.com/focus. I've also got the link in the show notes, or you can always DM me at the Fierce Framework and I'll hook you up. So coming back to, do people want it? It's going to depend on how many people want it, depending on what your idea of success is, right? And what you're selling, and the price point on it, and all those kinds of things. So I'm offering all this context because I don't want you to freak out at, do people want it? Okay. If you're offering something very niche, then it's going to take a little bit to find those people, most likely. Right. And you think about it with like just interest or friend groups or anything. Like if you want to join a crochet group, great, probably pretty easy. People are crocheting. But if you want to join like a specific brand of like macrame group that does like only curtains, it's going to be a little bit harder to find, right? Because it's more niche. And so when I say, do people want it? I'm not saying that like 9 out of 10 people that you walk past on the street. Good thing you don't have to be able to talk to have a podcast. That would be crazy. I'm not trying to plant the seed to make you think that like everyone has to want it in order for it to be viable. No. You just have to find your people. Okay. And so, especially now with like our global economy, if we're only looking for 1,000 people, like niche down, queen. Like if you want to do something super niche, and that's been very top of mind the past few years. I know people are saying that that's kind of changing now where you don't have to niche down as much. So I'm not going to harp on that. But the common advice has been to niche down. Like the more niche you get, the easier it can be in some cases because there's like a stronger connection. If I am looking for a dance instructor and you're a dance instructor, great. That's very general. That's very vague. So I might be obsessed with you because you're amazing, but I also might be like, meh, okay. But if I am looking for trying to think of something like niche, like a Viennese waltz instructor, that's a hard dance and that's pretty specific. And if I find a Viennese waltz instructor, someone who's niche that I'm looking for, then that connection is going to be stronger because it's more specific. We're not just bonding over dance. We're bonding over that specific type of dance and the passion about that dance and how your expertise lines up with what I'm trying to learn because you are an expert in that and I am looking for that. Right. So that's part of why my coaching is for new entrepreneurs, because that's what I have experience in. Like, that's what I'm good at. I don't have experience on how to be a serial entrepreneur who's like a billionaire now who just like buys people's businesses and flips them, like whatever, because I don't do that. Okay. I might in the future. I don't know. It seems weird. But so that is part of why like I want to explain the whole niche situation. So when you're looking at, do people want it? You also, I want you to also have grace for it might take some time to find those people, and that's okay. But we want to make sure we can find those people, right? And it's a whole separate conversation if you want to kind of zoom out and maybe offer something a little broader, a little more general, or target a different population. Like that's a whole conversation. So I want to give this context because I don't want to discourage you from offering something you're really passionate about just because it might take a little bit more time to find your people. Okay. But if no one wants to buy what you're selling, or they don't want to buy it from you, or whatever, and you're wanting to make money, then this is something that's important to consider, right? Because if you have a hobby, great. But if you want a business, you need to make money. So maybe part of like why I bring this up is okay, if I'm a terrible coach, right, which goes back to the first question, does it work? But if I'm a terrible coach, like people want business coaching, people buy business coaching all the time. But if I'm a terrible coach or if I'm a jerk or something like, you know, people might not want to buy coaching from me. So like I might not be a good fit for the industry. So, like, that's the kind of thing it's important to consider, right? Like, I don't want you to get in your head. I'm not trying to beat you up, but I definitely want to make sure, like, that thought has crossed your mind, okay? That people will buy what you're offering from you. Boom. Check that off the list. Let's move on. Third question is, do you have a way to accept payment? Okay, because again, this is a business, not a hobby, right? But tying back to the website thing, because I love to hate on websites, you don't need an elaborate website with everything automated and like everything set up and payment plans and like in-house financing, like all this stuff in order to start selling your thing. Okay. Tying back to Rachel Rogers, I love her. I think one of her suggestions, she's like, I don't care if you have like a baseball hat that you're just like holding out for people to put cash in. You just need a way to accept payment. And I'm like, I love it. Okay. Your first couple of payments can be Venmo or Cash App or like, it doesn't matter. Just get started. Okay. Now, once you're having regular revenue, right, and people are paying you, then we need to make sure the legality is under control. And that's a whole thing. But so often these three things become huge barriers to where we're never taking action. Okay. So if you're so caught up in the fancy busy work and you're never being like getting to the point where you're ready to make your offer and say, hey, I would love to help you out with XYZ. You know, I see you have this problem or you came to me with this, and I actually have a solution and I would love to help you out with it. And that's going to be $400. So go ahead and just Venmo me, or I have Stripe set up, whatever it is. And then you can accept that payment and you can help that person. Because again, I love my entrepreneur community, okay? And I know so many people with such good hearts, and what you want to do is help people. You also want to be able to survive long enough to keep helping people, and that's where money comes in, okay? Or, maybe you want a ton of money and there's nothing wrong with that. But you have to be able to have that exchange in order to help people. And if it's a business, right, then it's like we need that money for the work-life balance. If you can't help as many people when you're working your full-time job, or when you can't afford to survive, like, there's all those things that make money important, okay? So when you're first starting out, it can be a hindrance to have that in your head of like, oh my gosh, I need all this to be able to accept payment. Like in-house financing, right? Like I don't even know what goes into setting all that up. But if you're telling yourself that you need in-house financing before you've ever offered, then what are we doing? It's fancy busy work. It's distracting from your business. It's distracting you from the things that are going to make you money. Okay. Now, if you are selling and you're offering and you keep hearing, like maybe you go back to number two, people don't want to buy it from you because you don't have a payment plan. Okay, then maybe look into the payment plan, right? But if you are building all these different options and you're like, okay, I have 2-year financing, 5-year financing, this, that, and the other, no, 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 but you've never made an offer to someone and you don't even know if they need financing, You're distracting yourself from doing the work that matters in your business. That was really direct. I love you. I didn't even hold your hand. I'm so sorry. So, a way to accept payment, cash, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, whatever, boom. Because then you have that option. So then when you go into the opportunity and you're saying, "Hey, I would love to help you with this." And they say, "Great, I would love for you to help me with this. How do I give you the $400?" And you're like, "I have Cash App, PayPal, whatever." And they're like, "Okay, great, amazing, boom." But if you convince yourself that you can't start until you have a payment plan option, then you never get to that point in the conversation to find out if your customers need payment plans. And that is the trend with kind of all these things, right? Does it work? Usually we have to figure that out before we start charging for it because what are we charging for? But like, do people want it? How do you know until you start offering? And then we are so good at like telling ourselves why people won't want it, telling ourselves stories about like what needs to happen first. But we don't know until we try to offer it to other people. And then you get the real feedback of why people are buying from you or why people aren't buying from you or what you could do to improve at that point instead of trying to figure everything out in your head before you ever talk to a potential customer. They might not, the things that are important to you might not be the same things that are important to them. And that's why it's so important to start and you're making that offer and you're talking about how you can help people. And when they're interested and they go, "Yeah, I would love that," then you're letting them know how much it costs and how they can pay you. And then as things may or may not come up, because if you haven't tried, you might not know. The people are like, "Yeah, absolutely. Like, give me this thing. I would love it." Yeah, sure. I have a friend who made a job aid that she's been using for her coaching clients, right? And she's like, "Yeah, it's just a little, it's a little helpful job aid, right?" She was like, "You know what? This is a helpful job aid." I'm calling it a job aid because I'm in corporate. But like a tool. And she posted it on her website, and lo and behold, like 5 or 10 people bought it the first day. She's like, "Oh, okay." She wouldn't have known necessarily that people were willing to pay for it until she had that option available and was like, she knows it works because she's been using it, right? So she did that. Do people want it? Yeah, she knew people wanted it because she's been incorporating it like as a tool in her coaching. And she wasn't quite sure if people would pay for it or not or how much they would. So she went ahead and posted it on her website. Sometimes you need a website. I love to hate on them, but sometimes they're valid. So she posted it on her website, right? And then she had a way to accept payment. Okay, website. And people started buying it. Okay, so boom, she's got all 3 of her questions answered. And she's in business and people are buying this from her. Amazing. She could have waited to post it, not put it up for sale, and told herself all these kind of things about how, oh, people never pay for that kind of thing, or like this, that, or the other. Like, but she just went for it and she got her answer. It worked. And so why I iterate that is because so many of us are talking ourselves out of things before we even try. So you don't know if it's going to work or not because you're scared to try. And that's okay. Like that's so much of my content is about overcoming that fear. Like again, I'm not hating on you. It's so common that I'm incorporating this like into my podcast that we are afraid of trying and moving forward, but in reality you don't know how it's going to work out. It could work out great. You could put it on your website and people could just start buying it unprompted. I don't even think she like marketed it. Marketed it. Okay. And not every situation is going to be that way, and that's fine, right? And it's a low price point item. Like most of us aren't building our businesses around that kind of thing. And she's coaching, right? That's not, it's like a side thing. So it's not a perfect example, but it's such a clear example, like cut and dry, of how you ask those three questions, and they're like, yeah, boom. Yes, it works. Yes, people want it. Yes, I have a way to accept payment. So put it on the website, and lo and behold, people just start buying it. So I want you to build up that courage and start offering what you have and seeing, do people want to buy it from you? Maybe I should have switched 2 and 3. Does it work? Do you have a way to accept payment? Find out if people want to buy it from you. Okay. I believe in you. Build up that courage. Take that action. You're doing so great. I can't wait to talk to you next time. Until then, keep becoming fierce. Thank you so much for joining me on this past episode of the Fierce Framework, where we talk about becoming fierce through taking messy action, baby steps, and growing your confidence. I'm your host, Mary Beth. I'm so glad you're here. I hope you got a lot out of the episode. If you're looking for a little bit more, make sure that you are subscribed to my newsletter. I drop a new email every week. I'm also on social media platforms at the Fierce Framework, and I do have some coaching spots opening up. So if that's something you're interested in, you want to connect on that, feel free to drop me a DM or check out the link that I've included in the description. I can't wait to see you next time, and until then, keep becoming fierce.